The CEO of Camacol Talk, and welcome to another Camacol Talk, a weekly video podcast where we speak to the members of Camacol, the business leaders, the strategic partners, the community leaders of Miami. This program is brought to you by the City of Doral, Baptist Health South Florida, City Place Doral, and Equitable Advisors. On today's program, we're going to focus on the latest surge in COVID-19. Our special guest is Madeline Camejo. She is the Vice President of Pharmacy for Baptist Health. And we're going to talk, obviously, about the Delta variant that's out there and causing a lot of issues right now with COVID. So let's sit back and let's talk with Madeline Camejo. Right, everybody, with me now is Madeline Camejo, the Vice President of Pharmacy for Baptist Health South Florida. How are you doing, Madeline?
Good. How are you, Pete?
Thank you so much for taking time to be on Camacol Talk. Our conversation today couldn't be more timely, more relevant. This is real time. It's hot off the presses, and we want to make sure that we provide our viewers the right information on what's happening now with COVID. We know there's a lot of misinformation out there, but you're going to set the record straight here today and give us some important information and some things for everybody to consider and make sure that we can all stay safe throughout this. So I'm going to now turn it over to you, Madeline, so you can share through the magic of technology here some very important information on what is going on today with COVID-19.
Thank you, Pete. And today, basically, what I would like to talk to the audience is basically 3 or 4 topics, which is the variants, why do they mutate, and why do we have different strains? You know, COVID-19 incident rates in children and teens, what we're seeing today. Vaccines for children is a lot what I keep getting asked, and will boosters be needed? And we're going to talk about all of that today. And so why viruses mutate and become a different strain is really important in the sense that the human immune systems create a lot of barriers for viruses, and it begins to attack the virus once they enter our body. But viruses don't mutate because they want to evade medicine or vaccines, but rather the immune system. So it's important to understand that. And then viruses really attach via surfaces of the S protein to the human ACE2 cell on our cell surfaces. And here's where mutations can occur because they want to be able to fight and mute and actually bond to our cells. And then mutating really is a matter of survival. And the viruses that are out there want to be able to continue attacking the immune system. They get out from our bodies into someone else's body and they continue to spread. And this is where they do that so they can survive and continue to move and mutate. So those are the reasons why viruses do that.
Quick question for you, Madeline. The situation where these viruses are mutating and multiplying and growing is COVID a little bit different than other types of viruses when it comes to that, or is it following the same, I guess, pattern?
It follows the same patterns as the flu. You know how every year the flu is different?
Yes.
And, you know, we have to try to make a vaccine that protects what is the new strain out there. Mm-hmm. So it's not just about COVID. It's just that viruses mutate and they do it so they can continue to survive and spread. So COVID is no different. Mm-hmm. And the concern with COVID is that COVID is not like the flu. You know, yes, some people die from the flu, but it's usually more vulnerable people.
Sure.
You know, the issue is here, COVID can, as it's mutating, can become even more dangerous now. And I'll go over that piece of it and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay, great.
So what are the variants? Everybody hears all these different variants and what do they mean? So from originally about a year and a half ago when the virus went to Italy, where Italy was the first country in Europe to really get hit. And as it continued to spread throughout Europe, the first mutation was the alpha variant, which is what everyone was detected in the United Kingdom. And what they found that this virus then continued to spread more easily than the previous variant. And it was less likely to increase risk of death or illness, but it did have, if you got COVID, you had some natural immunity. But again, that was the first variant that we saw that started to spread quickly. The next one became the South African variant, which we hear about, which is the Beta variant. And then again, same thing, more easily spread. It becomes more easy to spread from one person to the other and not increase seriously in death or illness. But again, one of the things we found, though, is that if you got it and you didn't get vaccinated, you can get it again more easily because now the immune system, it reduced a natural immunity to this virus. Then came the Brazil, which in Brazil was started to spread. And as people travel around the world, they carry that variant down to other areas. So that's the Gamma. And this variant believed, again, to spread more quickly than the other two ahead of it. But this time, again, not a lot of serious illnesses, what they would consider. It's the same kind of variant in the aspects of the other two, but again, continued to become less immune. If you got it, you could get it again and again because it did not offer as much immunity or protection from natural immunity in your body. Mm-hmm. And now we're here with the Delta, which is the one that's been verified in India. This is where we found that one. This one is very concerning because now, again, it spreads even more quicker than the other two. And it is much more spreadable than the Alpha variant that we saw early back from England. And that's now become the most common variant out in the community. And the problem with this one is that this one now is starting to show that there might be an association of worse illness and even death. And this is the one that people are starting to monitor more quickly and is more important. And the other piece to this is that it does show potential reduction of immunity with even if you've been vaccinated or from being natural immunity. Some people think, oh, I got COVID, I don't need to protect myself. But natural immunity does not last as long as a vaccine. So this is the importance of people when you're thinking that, oh, I already got COVID, I don't need to be vaccinated. That's not usually the case. The vaccine is what gives you a not much longer protection against getting COVID again.
So the vaccine, okay, that we, I don't know, 60% of the country has taken. In essence, and I'm just a lay person, I'm not a medical person at all. It seems to me that it kind of holds you off for a period of time, but it doesn't mean that you're never going to get COVID again, correct?
Correct. The difference is the vaccine prevents you from landing in the hospital. And those are the studies that people around the world are doing. And the perfect example is, and I'll show you that in the next one. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to show you, this is the data from South Florida area. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, early in May, we had Alpha was the one that was being spread all throughout the county. Some of it was the Brazilian and a few other lineages, but they're not that what we consider the big strains. But now here we are, and it's of July 21st. This is data just as right off the press. Here's Alpha that has gone down, and now look at the Delta. The Delta starts to come in June.
Yes.
And this is what is now in our community is this Delta variant, and this is what we're seeing in our hospitals. And that's what's very concerning is people are coming in sicker, and we're landing them in the ICU much quicker than we did before. And most of the folks who are landing in our ICU are people who have never been vaccinated. We have had people who have gotten COVID because they're vaccinated, but they're not landing into the emergency room or ending up in an ICU.
You know what I'm thinking as you're sharing this information here is not to be gloom and doom, but what I'm seeing here is that COVID now, it's not just a one-hit wonder.
No,
it's just now going to be a reality of our lives moving forward, and we're going to have to, like anything else, like the flu or anything else that we do for our health, we're going to have to be checking and doing COVID tests on a regular basis, whether it's, every 3 months or whatever that regularity is, because everybody's suffering different symptoms. This is now part of our life, I
it
think.
is.
I don't know.
And it will be, and I predict it will be over the next 3 years until everyone is vaccinated and we can get to herd immunity. It is the only way we're going to stop COVID from spreading. Having half the country not vaccinated, those people who are not vaccinated are going to continue to spread and spread and spread. So that is why it's so important to get vaccinated. And you can be healthy as a horse and get COVID and land yourself in an ICU and die, or you can be healthy as a horse, young, and nothing, you might have asymptomatic symptoms. You just don't know. You're playing Russian roulette. You just don't know how COVID will interact with you. And our concern is this Delta variant is making people even sicker than the previous variants that were out there. And just to show you, these are the studies that they continue to do, because we continue to do a lot of studies and out in the scientific community that show even if you've had 2 doses of Pfizer and you've got confirmed infection with this Delta variant, the immunity now is down to 79%. You still could get symptomatic infection, which is now down to 88 versus 92 and 93, which it was about a year ago. But look at the hospitalization. It will prevent you from being hospitalized at least 96% of the time. So the vaccines do work. And then they look at the natural antibodies. Again, they show that there might be a reduction, but the vaccine still helps you, prevent you from getting a complete hospitalization, which is something we want people not to do. We don't want to see somebody intubated and, fighting for their lives in our hospitals.
And I'm just thinking out loud here is that I would hope and I would assume that the actual vaccines are going to get even better as time goes by. Because
Correct.
when
And
you're
they,
right,
that's exactly what they're doing. This is why they monitor the different variants, because if they have to make a tweak to the vaccine, Moderna and Pfizer can easily do it with the mRNA technology. And that's what they have been looking at. And this is why they continue to do these studies. But we're in the middle of a huge new surge now, as you can see, and I can see in our hospitals. The majority of our ICU patients now are between the ages of 25 and 50-year-olds, which is really who never got vaccinated, which is really a sad thing for me. Vaccines are the only way we're going to control this pandemic. And then if everyone just did their part and got vaccinated, we can return to normal life much faster. And that's what people don't understand. We really need to, this is not about politics. This is about the health of our community. And it's very sad to see, young people pass away. And just the amount of death that we've had from this is a shame, because we have a vaccine now that can prevent all of this. And people asking me, okay, I got vaccinated. Do I still need to wear a mask? Yes, because remember, the variants, you can still get COVID. You just may not end up in a hospital, but you still can get sick, and then you can spread it to someone else. So even if you've been vaccinated, with what's happening out there, and you see a lot of people with no mask, you don't know who's been vaccinated, who hasn't. And so it's really important as you go out in the community that you continue to wear your mask. And I just wanted to show the incident rates, because now that the majority of the elderly got vaccinated, you can actually see that what is now being spread from April, this is just from April 1st to June 11th, we're seeing 12 to 29-year-olds are the ones who are getting the most COVID. And we continue to spread, and that's what we actually see a lot of these 25 to 30-year-olds that are now in our ICUs, and even some of our younger folks are starting to get it. And if you see where it's happening in Arkansas, the children's hospital is now overrun with children who have gotten COVID. And the concern there is a lot in the sense that children, sometimes even if after they've gotten COVID, they experience what they call multi-system inflammations. They can get an enlarged heart. They can get, their lungs may not function as well because they're inflamed. Other parts of the organs do get inflamed and they don't feel well and end up back in the hospital and ICU. So what's really interesting is that they're now seeing that 36% of cases of these people between 12 and 20-year-olds end up in the hospital, as well as almost 62% reported cases that have occurred in children are Hispanic and Latinos and Blacks. And so, and these are the folks that usually hesitate our vaccine hesitancy. But, as of last, from 12 to 16-year-olds, now Pfizer did put in for them to get vaccinated. And if you can get to your pediatrician, if you have somebody who's 12 years old or older to get vaccinated, it's really important because they start to experience things after they've gotten sick, and that's an important thing for people to understand.
That's a very important point, and a topic for another conversation is the aftermath of after you have COVID. And we still don't know. I mean, you're hearing a lot of stories of folks that have lingering effects after having COVID, whether it affected the heart, the lungs, other organs in the body. We're not quite clear on the aftermath and what it leaves, the trail that it leaves in our bodies and how it's affecting our health now or maybe down the road. Something's gonna come up, a cancer. I don't know. I'm just,
It's not so much a cancer, but we do have now people who've had COVID and can't seem to shake it. They experience shortness of breath constantly.
Right.
They're not feeling well. And this has happened, almost 8 to 9 months. We're calling them COVID long haulers.
There you go.
And it's real. There's a lot of studies now looking at these people who, what can we do to get them better? But I do foresee that this is going to be another health issue that we're going to deal with because of COVID.
Absolutely.
And so I just want to show the vaccine rates in children that Pfizer has put out, and that Moderna has the same kind of studies. The most important thing from a side effects, as you can see, is really going to be the injection pain area. They're going to feel tired, some headache, fever. But overall, I think this is easier to deal with versus having to deal with COVID. And this is all within 24 hours. And I just want to show that there is a lot of studies now showing vaccination on children and even children under 12. And so I do think that there's probably going to be vaccination for schools because the concern of the continuous spread. I perceive that Pfizer and Moderna will put in for, because those studies are being done now. Mm-hmm. And the other question would be is, a lot of people, do I still need a booster dose? Again, I just showed you the studies where the vaccine is holding very well from hospitalization. And the FDA, they're looking at considering what is the booster dose or not yet, if it's necessary. But if we can't get half of the people still not vaccinated, it's very hard to try to do a booster dose at this time. And we're trying to get everyone to be vaccinated. That's the more important thing. And the CDC and the FDA at this time are not recommending it because the vaccine at least prevents you from hospitalization and severe disease, which is what we want. And I think that's the important things. But just to show you, they are doing studies on efficacy, how long the vaccine should, and as of right now, they're expecting that, the data should be at least lasting you 250 days, which is what some of the studies are showing. And again, just to show you that I think Moderna and the studies, the community, they are doing a lot of studies now for the summer that looks at, the safety and how much of this booster doses we would need. They're going to look at mix and matching. So if I got a Moderna, should I get a Pfizer? Those studies are all being done, and hopefully by the end of September, we should get more data on this, as well as looking at the incidence of cases of hospitalization. Is the Delta variant getting worse? Those studies are all being looked at, and we probably will have a lot more data by the end of September that we can continue to educate the public on.
First of all, I'm going to thank you for sharing this this, like I said, timely, relevant, important information. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, we want to debunk a lot of misinformation that is out there. Folks, you're hearing it from an expert, from an institution like Baptist, which has been a leader in healthcare in our community for many, many years. And we need to take this very seriously. We don't want to see a lot of you out there that are going through this and getting sick. It's some of us have been fortunate. I had COVID last year and got through that basically okay. I wasn't myself for like 3 weeks, but I was very fortunate. Others have not been, and it's very sad to see that. And it's the hospitals are being inundated now, and it's putting a lot of pressure on the first responders and all the healthcare workers there. So, any final comments, Madeline, that you want to share?
No, like I said, I know it's a personal choice, but I think we're past being at a personal choice. We're in a healthcare pandemic crisis, and the more all of us get vaccinated, the easier it's going to be to stop the spread of COVID, and we can protect what we have fought so hard is the economy, people not being able to lose their jobs. It's important, masking and getting vaccinated until we can get through and get to at least an 80% vaccine rate. You will see that the spread of this disease will stop if we can get everybody to do their part.
Madeline, thank you so much for being with us today on Camacol Talk. This has been phenomenal, and I really appreciate it. And we'll have more conversations down the road. And I know the viewers are they've been alerted, and this is something that hopefully we'll start to turn the corner for our community. And let's keep praying. Let's keep praying that everybody can get better. The ones that are currently going through COVID, and for all the family members, and so let's keep positive, but let's also be proactive and do the right thing.
Thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, have a great one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you once again to Madeline Camejo for sharing some very, very important, timely, and relevant information regarding COVID. Thank you for being with us here today. Again, we are on Facebook Live and our YouTube channel, 11 a.m. on Fridays. And as you can see, we talk everything Camacol. I'm going to ask you to follow us on our Facebook page, Twitter, LinkedIn, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Camacol Talk. Thank you very much for being with us here today. Have a great one. Take care.